He's got opinion.
I look. I'm gonna. I'll just put this out there for everyone to see it because I've been saying it a lot lately. I feel like, and I think you can attest to this though. I've spent a lot of time and energy in the research phase over the last year and a half, 2 years. A lot of time, and I've met a lot of wide spectrum of successful people. And again, seven figure up, kind
Yeah.
of, I've met a very wide spectrum. I mean, all
Right.
over. I mean, arts, music,
Right.
business, sleazy business. Like I've met a very wide spectrum, and I feel like I have a very high understanding of the variables that are necessary for success in
Okay.
business. What I think I'm still learning is all the combinations to get kind of like we had talked about, on a previous time was there's a certain number, right? If you have an overall and you can get to a certain number as long as nothing's below this, you have success, right? With all these variables. And there's so many combinations out of these variables to get to that number. It's very difficult.
To say this is the path to success and these are all the things you need for success, because some people made it without those, but that's only because they scored 120 on some of the ones that they needed, and they were able to skip over other things because there was such a strong need.
Yes.
And nobody wants to ever talk about that, because then you wouldn't have a problem and you wouldn't need me.
Yes. But that's the reason why I'm very cocky on the fact that I feel like I've spent enough time and I've studied and I've looked for all the variables. And I think this is the thing I kind of go back to my time in analytics with the restaurant industry. Most people just look at like one or two variables and they call it good. I'm over here trying to figure out every possible variable I can break down and even the ones I can't break down, right? Which I give kind of like mystery points to. And I try to break down as many of those variables as possible to look at, what's really happening. And I feel like most people don't take that time to look at the 10 variables or the, 15 variables, right? I think of like just qualifying your business, which is like a big one I'm passionate about right now. I think it's seven. I have like 12 variables in total, but I have like seven that are like the core seven. And I've yet to hear anyone talk about qualifying your business by those seven variables, as far as like to understand what kind of business you really have.
Right.
And it's things like that I see missing, and I go like, how is this missing? Like business has been going on for how many hundred thousands of years? Trade has been going on for how
Yeah.
long? Like how has no one written a book explaining this?
Right.
Because it just seems to me like this is where we should be. It's talking about
Right.
these are these seven
Right.
variables to define what kind of a business you really have. But no one has that. It's just, are you in a B2B? Are you in this, government code, right? What's your vertical, right? No one really talks about who's your consumer, what are their experiences, what's happening, like what got people to be your consumer. And what do they view of you to make them your consumer?
Right.
Like that
And
just
people touch on it, but they never really do a deep dive.
but no one's broken it down into variables like I have, like all the variables I have. There's consumer psychology, which breaks down most of it, but your typical marketing book or your typical
Yes.
whatever telling you on how to be a better marketer or business does not go
No.
into consumer psychology.
And it will never do that, because that would mean that people actually have to work. Nobody wants to work. Everybody wants the one answer.